Wow. Thank you, Mark and Bruce. Well, good morning and welcome to Emerson Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Leslie McLean. I'm a member of the worship team, the Emerson Choir, and the leadership team. This morning, I'm serving in the role of worship assistant with our guest speaker. Our called minister, the Reverend Deborah Bennett, will return to the pulpit next Sunday. Our speaker this morning is Dr. Michael Gordon. He grew up in Chicago and attended the University of Illinois for both his undergraduate and medical degrees. He was involved in the family practice of medicine for a few years, but his interest for the past 50 years has been addiction medicine, partly because it has allowed him to approach his patients in their entirety, physical, psychological, and spiritual. He has lived and practiced in the Atlanta area since 1984. He's in the process of retiring from medical practice to coincide with his 80th birthday this coming March. He wrote Autobiography of a Georgia Cat and self-published it in 2004, winning an award from the Georgia Writers Association. He hopes to see his current book, with the same title as this talk, and written during isolation due to COVID, published in 2023. His wife, Judy, is a retired family therapist, and their daughter, Michelle, is a senior lecturer and director of undergraduate studies in the Afro-American Studies Department at Emory University. Mike also happens to be a friend and neighbor, and it is with great pleasure that I welcome him to Emerson as today's speaker. As a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we welcome a wide variety of theological and spiritual beliefs. We honor the inherent worth and dignity of each and every person. I extend my welcome to each of you today, and am so glad you are here. Now, if you will join us in our opening hymn, it is number 38 in the gray hymnal, Morning Has Broken. Please rise in body or in spirit as you are able. Each Sunday, we pause to light our chalice as a symbol of Unitarian Universalism and our commitment to be a beacon of love in the world. This morning, Lawrence Scow will light our chalice.
Our chalice lighting words for today come from Walter Elliott. Perseverance is not a long race, but many short races, one after the other.
Now, in the spirit of the beloved community, let's greet and welcome each other to worship as we share our congregational affirmation, "We need not think alike to love alike." Those in the sanctuary, feel free to move around to offer a greeting to others. For those of you online, please use the chat to introduce yourself or unmute to say hello.
Good morning, Emerson. My name is Beth Klein, and I serve Emerson's congregation as Director of Family Ministry, and I'm also a member of our pastoral care team. At this time in our service, we pause to reflect on and share the joys, the sorrows, and the concerns in our lives, and light candles of our shared care. Prior to the service, we lit 3 candles that hold our collective sorrow and hope. These candles recognize the collective pain and suffering of the Cherokee and Muskogee nations of people who lived on this very land before us, the Africans who were brought to this land and enslaved, and the pain and suffering in all nations of people where there is conflict and injustice. Before our service each week, you're invited to add to this care table, lighting a candle for anyone you're holding in your heart. May these lights humbly remind us of our interconnection and the impact of our collective actions. May they be the light of hope for peace among all people. We turn now to our personal joys, sorrows, and concerns. You're invited to write a personal note in our care book prior to the service. This book is located in the entryway of the sanctuary, or you can always email us at pastoralcare@emersonuu.org. Together, let us celebrate these joys today. From Lynette Carlisle. Mark and I are celebrating our 17th wedding anniversary on October 15th, which was yesterday, and with several special events. We also attended a remembrance dinner with the family of Monty Goolsby, my dear friend who introduced me to backpacking, cowboy, coffee, and prairie home companion. He is missed and gratefully remembered. One more thing. Our granddaughter, Michaela, gave birth to Marciana Eleonora Torres on Wednesday. We have much to appreciate. With an open heart, let us hold these joys in our hearts and think of our other joys. We know that there are joys, sorrows, and concerns that are not spoken. As Susan Ullman lights our candles, please feel free to say out loud or type into the chat if you're viewing from home the name of someone you are holding in your heart today. Bonnie. Please join me in a moment of silence as we allow ourselves to feel part of this community of care. Let us send our heartfelt, caring intentions to each other and all beings everywhere by offering the Buddhist prayer of loving kindness. If you'll repeat these words after me. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May we all be filled with loving kindness. May we all be free from harm and suffering. May we all be free from harm and suffering. May we all be well in body, heart, and mind. May we all be well in body, heart, and mind. May we all be at peace. May we all be at peace. Blessed be.
One way we seek to share loving kindness is by partnering with other organizations who work to bring love, kindness, and justice to the world. This month, we will share our basket with several partners. Today, our partner is our own Cobb County GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance. Emerson's Cobb County GSA provides an important safe space for high school-aged LGBTQ+ youth and their allies to make new friends in a supportive environment and enjoy great conversation, games, and snacks. They meet monthly here at Emerson. Donations will be used for supplies and food. We encourage each of you to support this vital work financially through our Share the Basket program and also by engaging in direct action. Please offer a donation as you are able, or take one of the cards that describes the ways to give electronically. Ways to give are also posted in the chat. All donations, unless otherwise specified, are shared equally with Emerson and our partner organization.
Hello, I'm Jeffrey Jacoby, and I have a story for all ages. So would the young and young at heart like to come down and join us for a story? And it's not just the young and young at heart, it's like pretty much anybody who wants to hear a story, or maybe anybody wants to know what this basket full of stuff is I've got here. And this is a little bit of a slightly spooky story, so not too spooky, but... Oh, great, thank you for joining me. Oh, and also, I told Noel that today I was going to be telling the story of the pale green pants. And he said, "Oh, I'll be there." And there is nothing weird at all about the fact that he's going to listen to the story from behind that podium. So, if you've heard the story before, and I'm sure some of you have, then you already know what I have here is a basket of snide. And if you've ever done it, then you know that collecting snide can be really scary. When I collected this snide, well, it's kind of like what happened to the guy in the story. Well, it's actually exactly what happened to the person in the story. And I'll have to say, I hope I never have to go back to that snide field ever again. Well, I was walking in the night, and I saw nothing scary, for I've never been afraid of anything. Not very. Then, I was deep within the woods when suddenly I spied them. I saw a pair of pale green pants with nobody inside them. Well, they're really more forest green, but I guess we'll go with that. Well, I wasn't scared, but yet I stopped. What could those pants be there for? What could a pair of pants at night be standing in the air for? Get my snide out of the way. And then they moved. Those empty pants, they kind of started jumping. And then my heart, I must admit, it kind of started thumping. So I got out. I got out fast. As fast as I could go, sir. I wasn't scared, but pants like that, I did not care for. No, sir. After that week went by, then one dark night in Greenwich, I had to do an errand there and fetch some Greenwich spinach. Well, I had fetched the spinach. I was starting back through town when those pants raced around the corner, and they almost knocked me down. I lost my Greenwich spinach, but I didn't even care. I ran for home. Believe me, I had really had a scare. There we go. Now, bicycles were never made for pale green pants to ride them, especially spooky pale green pants with nobody inside them. And the next night, I was fishing for doubt trout on Rover River. When those pants came rowing toward me, well, I started to shiver. And by now, I was so frightened that, I'll tell you, but I hate to, I screamed and rowed away and lost my hook, line, and bait, too. I ran and found a brickle bush. I hid myself away. I got brickles in my britches, but I stayed there anyway. I stayed all night, the next night, too. I'd be there still, no doubt. But I had an errand to do, so the next night, I went out. I had to do an errand, had to pick a peck of snide in a dark and gloomy snide field that was almost 9 miles wide. I said, I do not fear those pants with nobody inside them. I said, and said, and said those words. I said them, but I lied them. Then I reached into a snide bush, and the next thing that I knew, I felt my hand touch someone, and I'll bet you know who. And there I was, caught in the snide, and in that dreadful place, those spooky pants and I were standing face to face. I yelled for help, I screamed, I shrieked, I howled, I yelled, I cried, oh, save me from these pale green pants with nobody inside. But then, a strange thing happened. Why, those pants began to cry. Those pants began to tremble. They were just as scared as I. I never heard such whimpering, and I began to see that they were just as strange. I was just as strange to them as they were strange to me. I put my arm around their waist. I sat right down beside them. I calmed them down. Poor empty pants with nobody inside them. And now we meet quite often, those empty pants and I. We never shake or tremble. We both smile and we say, hi.
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 So has something ever happened to you guys that you thought might be really scary, but then you tried it and found out that it wasn't so bad? And maybe you even ended up liking it a little bit. Like maybe a roller coaster, or Brussels sprouts maybe. Or maybe Greenwich spinach. Okay, maybe do you think the Pants will join us in sing our song of dedication?
Good morning. This is from Meditations of the Heart by Howard Thurman. It's called Lord, Lord, Open Unto Me. Open unto me light for my darkness. Open unto me courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me peace for my turmoil. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom for my confusion. Open unto me forgiveness for my sins. Open unto me tenderness for my toughness. Open unto me love for my hates. Open unto me thyself for myself. Lord, Lord, open unto me. Reverend Deborah, Leslie, Beth, members of the congregation, dear friends and family, good morning. It's wonderful to be here. I must say the music has filled my heart this morning. Thank you so much, everybody who contributed to it. I'm very glad to be here this morning to speak with you about how the 12 steps serve as a pathway, a blueprint for the heroic journey. My task is to explain the heroic journey, talk about how the 12 steps can act as a blueprint or GPS for that journey, and tell you how living my life led me to this knowledge, all in about 20 minutes. For those of you here in person, I invite you to stay afterwards so that we can have additional dialogue. Life is best lived as a spiritual journey. I have come to understand that life is not just a journey, but a heroic one. There is nothing so instructive as life experience, both the experience of suffering and that of redemption. As Scott Peck said in The Road Less Traveled, life is difficult. All the great thinkers who wrote about such things have said that pain is the touchstone for spiritual growth. I remember thinking when in the midst of my own misery way back in my 20s, that no good that might come out of this would be worth it. How wrong I was about that and so many other things. For more than 80 years, and originating with the Alcoholics Anonymous program, the 12 steps have served as a pathway of recovery and spiritual growth, followed successfully by millions of people. My thesis is that the 12-step pathway is a model for the heroic journey. A hero is a person who faces great danger, overcomes incalculable odds, and accomplishes that which would have been thought, especially by him or her, to be impossible to achieve. We can use the heroic journey as a means of understanding our dealing with the difficulties we encounter in life. In today's talk, I will explore these concepts and hopefully demonstrate in what way traveling through life on the 12-step pathway is a heroic journey. So what is the heroic journey? The heroic journey is a type of myth, as spoken about by Joseph Campbell and popularized initially through his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, published, I believe, in 1948. It is a story which includes several component stages. First, the call to adventure. Second, the refusal of the call, or the wish to refuse. Third, acceptance of the call and receipt of divine assistance or magical gifts. Fourth is the adventure itself. Fifth is the attainment of the quest. Next is the call to return. And seventh is the refusal of the call to return or the wish to refuse. And finally, the return to the kingdom with whatever boon or treasure has been acquired as the result of the successful quest. The refusal steps in particular can come up repeatedly throughout the journey. Others have gone into more detail and talked about more components of the heroic quest, especially adding separate elements of the adventure itself. And there are many variations. Sometimes the hero is killed, but he or she is always reborn in some form. In every case, the hero is forever changed, having been spiritually transformed. A well-known example of the heroic journey is the biblical story of Moses. God called upon Moses to get Pharaoh to set the Hebrew people free. After trying to talk God out of this, Moses embarked on a remarkable adventure, full of challenges unresolvable by a mortal man, and he got the Hebrews to the promised land. My own story is also instructive. As a young man, I married a woman who had serious issues with mental health and substance abuse. I was finishing my training, and during this time I set up my medical practice. Not coincidentally, I took an interest in alcoholics as patients, but I was woefully ignorant about both the disease and the treatment approaches available. I was led to Wayne W., a recovering man who took me to my first AA meeting. It was held at the AA Clubhouse on Carroll Street in Madison, Wisconsin, just off of State Street, the main drag of the University of Wisconsin. It was November 17th, 1972, a chilly Friday night. Even at that time of year, State Street was a party scene, loaded as it was with drinking establishments and thirsty students. The meeting house was full. There were probably 80 to 100 people in attendance, and what was striking about it was the jovial mood in the room. People were friendly, laughing, hugging, and at the same time serious about sobriety. After some preliminary readings and a prayer at the outset of the meeting, we were treated to the main event. 3 gentlemen who had come down from Green Bay to share their experience, strength, and hope with us. They each spoke for about 15 minutes, and I can assure you that their message was powerful because to this day I remember something of what each of them said. As I sat there, it occurred to me that there was a remarkable force at work in that room. Here were 3 alcoholic men from Green Bay sharing their recovery stories with around 100 sober alcoholics. In Madison, right by State Street, where one wouldn't expect to encounter any sober alcoholics, especially on a Friday night. I thought that the odds of that happening by chance were close to 0. After the meeting, as people were socializing, I stood and I looked at a wall hanging which listed the 12 steps. I decided to accept the proposition that the program worked because the people were following the 12 steps and that, as they claimed, God was doing for them what they could not do for themselves. In that moment, I made a decision to dedicate my professional life to working with alcoholics, where I could combine the power of spirituality, not religion, and my medical training. Now, almost 50 years later, I can say that it was the best professional decision I ever made. And I'm immensely grateful to have been given the opportunity to have the career that I have had. Just as importantly, I took advantage of having an open invitation to attend an AA group, and I began to understand what AA was all about and how it worked. I discovered a wealth of wisdom in the membership I encountered. For a while, I gave no thought to applying the steps in my own life, as at that time I rarely drank, and I was not an alcoholic by anyone's definition. But sometime in 1973, as my brain fog lifted and my wife's alcoholism became apparent to me, and as she was leaving our marriage, I was sitting in on an AA meeting when the thought struck me I was at the wrong meeting. The next day I found an Al-Anon meeting for the affected family members of alcoholics, and thus began the next phase of my journey. Sitting in on that AA meeting the day before, I had taken the first step, admitting I was powerless over alcohol and over the alcoholic. By this time, I was convinced of the healing power of the program. By deciding to go to Al-Anon, without realizing it as such, I answered the call to heroic adventure, both to embark on a heroic journey and to live my life according to the 12 steps. This was the best personal decision I ever made in my life. Starting that day, although it didn't happen overnight, my life has become unrecognizable from the wreck it had been. My self-pity is gone, and I'm happy, free, and I have an opportunity to be useful to others. I'm doubly blessed because I've been able to use my knowledge in helping others in the 12-step fellowships, as well as in working with patients. And a few years later, after my own drinking, surprisingly to me at least, had developed a compulsive pattern, I was able to quit by joining AA. I've not had a drink of alcohol since 1983. It turns out that many people in AA started their journey in Al-Anon. Introduction to Joseph Campbell's ideas was another big step on my spiritual journey. About 25 years ago, I encountered a patient whose wife had persuaded him to go to a Christ-centered program for cocaine addiction. He told me he had agreed to go to that program to please her, even though he was not a Christian. And he said he knew he needed help. I asked him what his belief system was, and he asked me if I had ever heard of Joseph Campbell. Well, as it happened, I had heard of Joseph Campbell, but I was not well informed, so I asked him to tell me about what he believes. He told me what I hear from a great many newcomers to recovery, that he believes in a spiritual element in the universe, but that he had no specific belief about God. He quoted Campbell as saying that God is beyond all categories of human thought. I went home and obtained a copy of Campbell's The Hero of the Thousand Faces. I read The Power of Myth, and I got the recordings of his conversations with Bill Moyers at George Lucas' Skywalker Ranch over a decade earlier. I was very attracted to the heroic journey as a metaphor for life in general and for recovery in particular. I could see that my life had conformed to the elements of the heroic journey. I saw that the struggles my patients went through were indeed heroic in scope. Like many of my patients, sometimes I didn't know what to think about God. I had come to mistrust pat explanations of God that was offered by religions. What I had come to like about 12-step recovery was that it took no dogmatic position on God. That was left up to the individual who was walking the walk, so to speak. And what is referred to as the Big Book, which is the basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous, it does say that he was as much a fact as we were. But it also says that what you believe is up to you as long as you are willing to believe in a power greater than yourself. Another statement made is that deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. This suggests that the idea of God is an archetype, a fundamental sense or idea carried along in the structure of the human personality. But the idea can manifest in different people differently. The concepts of archetypes and of the collective unconscious were put forward by Dr. Carl Jung, whose thinking had a significant influence on Joseph Campbell. Dr. Jung indirectly had such a profound effect on the founding of Alcoholics Anonymous that without him it is unlikely to have ever seen the light of day. And Jung was unaware of this until the last year of his life, when Bill Wilson, a co-founder of AA, wrote and told him the story. So what are the 12 steps, and in what way do they provide a blueprint or GPS for the heroic journey? We will look at the 12 steps as originally written for alcoholics, although there are now dozens of programs adopting them to other problems. Step 1 says, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. The alcoholic simply cannot stay away from a drink, and once started, drinks uncontrollably. For the alcoholic, the call to adventure comes hundreds or thousands of times as the drinking causes difficulties in their lives, sometimes seemingly minor, and at other times quite evident and serious. Likewise, the refusal comes every day as well, as denial and rationalization prevent the alcoholic from admitting defeat. Then one day, step 1 is taken. And next, the alcoholic accepts the propositions of steps 2 and 3, that a power greater than himself can restore him to sanity and to a decision to put his will and life into the care of this higher power. Having done so, he moves on to the adventure, and what an adventure it is. All the poor drunk really wanted to do was quit, or at least get control of his drinking, not take a journey of such magnitude. The call to adventure has been accepted, the decision has been made, the threshold has been crossed. In the case of the alcoholic, the gifts received are the program, that is, the 12 steps, the fellowship, and a sponsor. The sponsor serves as a mentor to the initiate, guiding him through the recovery process. Through this process, the alcoholic makes the key discovery that the heroic journey is in reality 2 journeys at the very same time. First, the outward adventure of living in the world without drinking, the very same world in which quitting or staying quit had previously been impossible. And second, and in a way more importantly, he or she discovers it to be an inward journey of self-discovery, and most surprisingly, of self-love. The next 6 steps involve Step 4, an exhaustive self-examination. Step 5, confession. Step 6 and 7, deciding to be the best person that one can be, and lost my place, I'm sorry, and placing oneself in the hands of the higher power to achieve this aim. And step 8 and 9, the making of amends to persons harmed. Upon completion of the first 9 steps, the hero has been transformed. From being a guilt-ridden person who hated himself and his life, the alcoholic has achieved sobriety and discovered happiness, freedom, serenity, usefulness, acceptance of self and life on life's terms, and spiritual awareness. The quest has been realized. Now the hero is ready for the next stage of the journey, which somewhat unexpectedly turns out to last for the remainder of his or her life. Here the hero is called to return to the kingdom with the treasure, which is the secret of recovery. Resistance to this responsibility must be overcome, and is done successfully through the final 3 steps. The 10th step is one of daily self-examination and self-awareness. The 11th step is one of daily prayer and meditation. The 12th step has 3 components. It reads, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. The most remarkable aspect of this step is what it does not say. And what is that? It does not say, having stayed sober as the result of these steps. It says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. What started out as a quest for sobriety, to end the shakes, the hangovers, the trouble with the boss, the blackouts, to satisfy the judge or the wife, to not have to look at the faces of the frightened children, has developed into a way of life involving daily self-examination, prayer, meditation, and service to others. It is a journey towards wholeness, of union with the Creator, and a journey taken in community with others. Everyone has a potential hero dwelling within, to rise to the occasion and meet life's challenges, which inevitably come. For those persons who stay the course, who accept a lifetime of traveling the heroic path, one day at a time, following the 12 steps in their daily lives, there is immense satisfaction in a life well lived. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Please join us in our closing hymn, number 1007 in the Teal Hymnal, There's a River Flowing in My Soul.
There's a river flowing in my soul. There my soul. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my heart, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my heart. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing in my mind, and it's telling me that I'm somebody. There's a river flowing in my mind. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing. There's a river flowing in my soul.
Hello again. This is where I get to tell you what I just told you. Everyone finds life challenging at times. People try to find an understanding of life which helps them cope with and overcome their difficulties. The heroic journey is a classical form of myth in which the hero uses the help of spiritual gifts and powers as he braves great danger and accomplishes that which he never imagined that he could do. The 12 steps are a lifetime journey of recovery, and they provide an excellent model for living successfully according to spiritual principles. The quest is realized when the interior journey leads the hero to the discovery of his true self at his spiritual core. While the original application of the 12 steps was recovery from alcoholism, they've been adopted by dozens of programs helping people solve the difficulties that have overwhelmed them in their lives. They can also be followed by individuals outside of the formal program. By viewing oneself in the role of the hero, following the 12 steps, life's challenges can be met and life can be immensely rewarding and joyful. Thank you.
We hope you have been nourished in heart and mind by our worship today. If you would like more information about Unitarian Universalism or about participation here at Emerson, please stop by our welcome table in the front entry. Bernadine Cudeleta is there this morning ready to meet you. Please plan to join us next week when the Reverend Bennett returns to the pulpit and will speak about touching the earth. As our chalice is extinguished this morning, please join me in the final words. They're posted in the chat and in the order of service.
We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again.
Please join us for refreshments and fellowship in our fellowship room on the first floor near the back doors. Those of you online, please stay tuned in and you will be able to go to a virtual breakout room for fellowship time. At 11:15, our second hour activities for adults, children, and youth begin, including worship reflections that will be here in the sanctuary. Please see the listings in the order of service. Our service is now concluded, but our connection has only begun. Go now in peace and take peace wherever you go.
Lord.